Yeah, I think Scott and Roosh is good.
I don't know, man. Some people like the one word. Some people might like the scroosh.
Some people might like the Scrooge. I'm definitely not one of those people.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. I mean, I came up with it in 2 seconds, so
Yeah, we could. I mean, it's the first episode. You can always figure it out. So we're live now.
we are live.
Yeah, we're
We are
live. We're good. We're all. Did you see the countdown?
live. No,
Oh, I saw it. I should have maybe given you a sign.
no, it's all
But
good. We're live.
how's it going, Scott? How you doing?
It's good. It's been a eventful week, that's for sure. Um, election results and everything, and
It seemed much more calm than the last time. The last election, at least the last time Donald Trump won, it was very tumultuous. And I actually wasn't even in the country, but you could just I remember even in San Diego, some protesters shut down a freeway, and it was a very crazy couple days after he won.
yeah, because he was coming in kind of like as a polarizing figure, and they pitted him up against Hillary, which I mean, she's another polarizing figure. So
Yes.
I can see. I don't know why they thought they had it in the bag. It kind of made sense that they should have. I mean, she did win popular vote and whatnot, and it seemed like people were on board with her in general, just like as a Democrat. I don't think that many people were on board with her as a person. So same with Trump. I don't think that many people were on board with him as a person, but he was. I think people are just sick of the system. They don't like the way the politics works. Trump was an outsider to the system. He called the system out. People said, "Okay, that sounds good. We can get someone in there to fix the system." And then I don't know. After those 4 years, it doesn't seem like anything changed. And yeah, then he went up against Biden, and I think people were just ready to go with like the safer pick after all the chaos of like the media every day and like families, dude. You got one family member on one side of the spectrum and you got like another on the other. Like shit got hectic at Thanksgiving or Christmas. Like you just don't. And I think now, what has it been? It's been 8 years. Yeah,
8 years.
8 years later, I think people have learned their lessons. I think Trump got a lot of the younger audience interested in politics in the first time because it was exciting. It was exciting. There was a lot of interesting stuff in the news. But I think now, after being on the left and getting defeated and also being fed up with the system, I think people are taking a big step back and maybe aren't willing to sacrifice terrible, like, they're not willing to sacrifice their personal relationships over political arguments or discussions.
You'd hope so, but some people are really strong in their devout in their beliefs, and they feel uncomfortable when they know someone else doesn't believe a certain framework of thought. And when we're someone that has difficulty accepting someone else's framework of thought, it really puts us at a disadvantage, I think. I
Mhm.
think it's really helpful to be able to kind of and take input from anything. And I mean, one thing I've been saying is that the party's traditional value systems of, categorizing Democrats as liberals and categorizing Republicans as conservatives, I think is completely changed. I don't think that the Democrats are actually that liberal or the Republicans are actually that conservative. I think you've got a really big, frankly, change going on, and amongst the younger generation where you have a certain group of young people that are you know that are, Trump is magnetic for them. They really view him as someone that can help them or someone that communicates their problems really well. And Scott Galloway speaks about this. Trump embodied masculinity a lot better than Kamala, and a lot of the huge voting disparities were amongst men of a particular ethnic groups, particular races, Latinos and white men, overwhelmingly voted for Trump, and so it's something to consider moving forward.
Yeah, I think. Well, I also think people are kind of fed up with just not only like the system, but like as someone who generally votes more left, I'm a little more fed up with the politics on the left being so centered around race, gender, and sexual orientation. When I think, I mean, their reasons for the losing the election is they blame they do blame Latino and white men for like not showing up and supporting them, and I think that they blame white men mostly because they don't like really campaign for white men, but at the same time they're like, you're looking at all these interviews after the election and they're like, oh come on, where were the Latino men, why aren't they showing up? But I mean, Latino culture in general is pretty like masculinity focused as well, so it kind of makes sense that they voted. But I mean, they're also more conservative in general, more religious families, things like that. Um, but I feel like everything's kind of attributed to race, like why things went wrong are attributed to race rather than like just maybe it has nothing to do with race. Maybe it's just how things are. But if that's the campaign you're running on, like on the left, and you're saying, like we're gonna have a black woman president, and you get 80% of the black women vote or whatever, then it makes sense. But at the same time, I think people didn't really didn't really move the other way, or they didn't weren't as grabbed by the left because they've been playing this, you know, identity politics for such a long time, and it doesn't seem like as much of a real problem as some of the other things going on. That like the issues that Trump is talking about tackling, whether it's corruption within the government or illegal immigration. These are things that have been going on for a while, and they seem like much more real issues than uh,
And
race.
there's some very serious things that occurred. He was having huge litigation taken up against him on. I mean, I didn't even follow up with it, but lots of, he's a convicted felon now, I believe. I don't actually know, but
Yeah,
lots of uh, trials and lot of things from the government being done against Donald Trump, and now you see that all breaking towards the background, or a lot of these DAs dropping these cases, and you also see there were several things. I think RFK encapsulated a lot. He was someone that I really resonated with, talking
hmm
about issues that, the debt's a huge issue. I don't think people on the left, I mean, they didn't even address it at all. Uh,
yeah, and food
that
quality as well.
food quality as well, but I mean, economic issues by itself, I think maybe won Trump, um, because Scott Galloway again speaks about this. The largest victims of kind of inflation, of housing shortages are, not in are not to say young women don't also suffer from that, but young women have been doing very well,
hmm
and young men are the subs, are, according to Scott Galloway, falling behind. And so I think they just, you could see them, if Trump is speaking about this, if he's speaking about economic policy, if he's speaking about, okay, maybe we'll use Bitcoin to pay off the debt. If he's speaking about, okay, using energy to make life cheaper, make goods cheaper, um, creating, whether you believe it's a good way of doing uh, governmental income between tariffs and income taxes on your citizens. He's talking about it. He's making that a focal point his of his campaign.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the left, Kamala Harris, that was not a focal point as much, and it should have been. It should have been because that one, it was a big deal. I mean, and again, assets were what inflated. So you had stocks inflating. Right now, I believe stocks are at the highest prices ever. I'm sorry, the Dow is at its highest value ever.
Mm-hmm.
And Trump spoke about these things. Now, whether he can actually execute on them, unsure. The debt will probably be raised. Very unlikely that that's going anywhere. There's a lot of systems in place within the government that aren't that easy to just remove. And so, you know, it'll be interesting, but I think it's a changing time and a changing group of individuals that are becoming the power players in voting, in influence. And so I think we're seeing the baby boomers kind of shifting into the background. And I mean, you look at the wealth differences across baby boomers and um, every every age group below them, it's stark. I believe baby boomers are 72% wealthier than their parents were at this age. And we as millennials, and I'm not sure about Gen Z, maybe Gen Z is included in this, are about 40% poorer than um, than our parents were, than the baby boomers were at this time. So uh, it'll be a really interesting next 20 to 30 years because, like, I've heard about this term, the silver tsunami, referring to the great retirement, the great wealth transfer from boomers to younger generations. And I think it's really interesting to see that play out in, particularly for me, I've seen, kind of US, Europe, and China, and they all seem to have like their own problems.
Mm-hmm.
And so, China, I believe, I'm not sure if at the moment, but 6 months ago, there was a lot of articles coming out about their youth unemployment being really poor. Like, I heard over 20% youth unemployment. Um,
Yeah, that's not great for China.
no, that's not great for China. And then, in this country, I think is still really, I'm not sure. We came from a wealthier area. So,
Yeah, I think this country is fine. I
yes.
think I think we're still in the pocket. We might be able to do all right without any like crazy collapse or anything like that. I think we have it better off than a lot of other countries. But I mean, the most exciting thing, I know you said next 20 to 30 years, but these next 4 years with Trump as president are going to be very interesting because Democrats kind of threw the election. I was a little bummed about it on election day. But every day after, I kind of was thinking, like, this could be really good. They fumbled the bag twice now, sort of. I mean, this is all just because they put Biden in, and years of saying, "Oh, he's fit to run. He's fit to run. He's fit to run," comes to bite them in the ass. Um, they don't really have. I think a lot of people are interested in the anti-corruption, trying to get rid of lobbying, and it's not really an issue that's getting talked about left or right. I think Bernie Sanders talked about it quite a bit, but then he didn't get nominated. He's renounced the Democratic Party. He's an independent now. So, but I think, as good as it sounds, I mean, Trump, he put together a plan of things he wanted to accomplish in the White House. A few of them sounded pretty good. And at this point, he's going to have the majority of the House and the Senate. So last time when he was president, he said he'd do a lot of things, and it didn't really seem like he got anything done. But I don't even think nothing that bad happened last time he was president. Nothing that good happened either, from like the public perspective. But this time, he's going to have a lot more control over the things he wants passed. And if it all goes wrong, people might not vote Republican anymore. And if it all goes right, then the Democratic Party is going to have to step up their game, change their game plan, and try to cater to a better audience, because they keep going like more and more left on social issues. But what we really want them to do is go for the people more. Like, it's crazy to think when you have these people just essentially taking bribes from corporations, and they get to make all the legislations the corporations want to make, and there's ways around all of that, so that it's not necessarily considered illegal. And of course, politicians want to protect the money they're making, so they're not even going to bring it up as an issue for the most part. And they try to, it seems like they're almost using these other tactics of trans rights or abortion or, the border crisis. Both parties do it, but it seems like they're really trying to keep you and your mind off of the thing that you really want. And what you really want is like a strong, like unbribable government.
Yes, I think you do want that. You do want incentives to be obvious to people, because right now the incentives across policymakers is not obvious.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like, what is good for you and how are you going to adjust your action for those differences in accumulation. If you go left, you're going to get something. If you go right, you're going to get something else. And
Hmm.
understanding those incentives, which does mean questioning how politicians are funded,
Hmm.
it is important, and it does put a lot of what's going on here.
Yeah. And I think also just being someone on the outside too, like I'm not invested in really any of these elections for the most part. I always just kind of sit back and am interested by it all. But I didn't follow this race leading up to it. I mean, I obviously saw Trump get shot at. I saw, the big thing, and I was like, oh, he's going to win this. And then next week, he debates Biden. He absolutely crushes Biden in the debate. And then Biden drops out within the next week. And now all of a sudden, the media cycle is so vicious that no one talks about Trump getting getting attempted assassination like just 2 weeks later, because now all the hot rage is like, come on. I thought she was going to pull ahead in a landslide. Like, I thought people had it with Trump, but I think people are kind of just fed up with both sides at this point, on certain things. And I think a lot more people than either party gives credit for are very swingable votes. Um, I don't think
I
it's
think
the swing states, but I think a lot of people are kind of on the fence, and just depending on the climate. Like, this is a financially unstable climate. They're going to vote for whoever seems to have a better financial policy or solution.
that's true. Also, we are in the age of social media and out of the age of television. So
Yes.
this is a huge deal, because it used to be, all right, there's Republican leaning media and there's Democratic leaning media.
Yes.
And that's pretty obvious. So you choose your channel. Like, are you going to channel 15 or channel 32?
Hmm.
So you're ingesting the same information as, maybe anywhere from 40 to 60% of the rest of the population.
Hmm.
But now that the younger generation is on social media, the very the variability of content that they're ingesting is much larger. So
Oh yeah.
I believe the number of independents is the largest ever, and it actually is over 50%. And I think that Gen Z, I believe that television did perpetuate the two-party system
Hmm.
because of the specific aspect of television channels.
Hmm.
And it seems like social media is kind of, I would say, I don't know if this is true,
Hmm.
but providing a platform for more ideologies, a variance of ideas. Because I mean, you look at how much the Democratic Party spent on campaigning, and it didn't work at all.
Yeah. Well,
And
I mean, Trump went on three of the biggest dude podcasts. He was on Theo Von first, which was kind of a shocker. I mean, he's exploded as a comedian. Then he was on Flagrant with Schultz. That's kind of like the East Coast sort of Joe Rogan, I guess. But if I had to put it that way, well, whatever. Andrew Schultz is his own thing. And then he went on Joe Rogan, and Kamala didn't really do any of those. She went on a couple podcasts, but they're not quite at those levels of far-reaching. I guess she didn't really target that. And then when you go on podcasts, what's great is people make clips, and then people put clips up on YouTube Shorts, on TikTok, and all you can get. I mean, Trump had 3 hours on Rogan. He might have said some deplorable shit for 2 hours and 50 minutes, but if there's 10 minutes of clippable content where he says something that resonates with people, it's going to get clipped, it's going to get repeated, it's going to get fed into their algorithms, and they're going to lean one way if he has better clips. At
he
least that's
does.
for a specific age group. He does have better clips. I mean, Kamala was a little boring. I think people also,
You just said it, dude.
yeah,
Kamal was boring and Trump is exciting. Everyone is stoked to get
everyone's
entertained
stoked. It's
for
like
the next 4 years.
I'm not even. I hated Trump last time he ran, and well, I liked him because he was anti-system, and so I was hopeful. But when I saw him not really make the difference that I wanted him to make when he was in the office, and I was just getting fed bad news after bad news after bad news by CNN or NBC, it felt bad. I was kind of in my own echo chamber on like television news because it was COVID at the time. I was living with my parents or whatever, and it's what they had on TV, and so I was like, oh fuck, I
The
didn't vote,
meat
so I didn't feel responsible, and it
the
doesn't matter anyway. We're Californians.
No, it doesn't, and that's a sad reality. The median vote, the median age of viewer of CNN and Fox News, I believe, is like 67 years old.
Yeah, that sounds about right. But I mean, I don't really get my news other ways. Like I don't click around on the internet and click on
You don't have a news
articles.
app?
I don't have a news app. I don't For the most part, I hear things through other people who are maybe more attentive than me. And in that
Getting an
sense, I have a filter. I have a filter. I only get the news that's good
if
or
you get
interesting.
if you get a news app and you just scroll the titles, you can learn a lot. Oh shit. You can learn a lot.
Yeah, you can learn a lot, but at the same time, I don't really trust news right now. I feel like we're living in a time where there's so much information out there and there's so many conflicting sources. There's so many opinion pieces that like I don't know what to trust. Like Trump having all these court cases stacked against him could seem like evidence that people who are working in the system that I don't like don't want Trump to dismantle that system, and therefore they're vilifying him, right?
Well,
And so that already begins a conspiracy in my mind. And if it's doing that to me, it's doing it to a lot of people. But then again, there's the other chance that what I want to believe is completely false. And maybe Trump is actually fucking everything up for everyone. You know what I mean?
Yes. I uh Nothing is that hidden. Nothing is hidden. Everything's in the open. There's no more privacy. You know,
Mm-hmm.
collusion is very difficult to not. I mean, in today's world, collusion is so difficult. It's never been less obtainable.
Mm-hmm.
Collusion without other people knowing. Privacy has never been less obtainable.
But at what point is there so much information that it's difficult to parse? You know what I mean? It's like, sure, maybe collusion isn't obtainable without something getting out. But if that one thing is buried beneath a million other things, and the only people looking for it are the only people who find it, and they're written off as maybe nut jobs for finding it or being so invested in it, then it's hard to, you know. I mean, Trump even mentioned on Joe Rogan that he was going to release the files on the JFK assassination, which is like, fuck, I'd vote for someone if I thought there was a chance on that. If he doesn't, I'm going to be so bummed. But like, that's a conspiracy a lot of people have gotten behind because it was odd. There's something odd about it, and this was in the time before internet. But I think he is kind of playing into that conspiracy stuff,
Well, he might
right?
be a victim. I mean, he feels
He
as though
could
he's a
be.
victim of it.
He's playing it like he's a victim of it, and he's playing it like he's going to
I mean, he
reveal
got
everything.
2 assassination attempts within the last 5 months, so.
Yeah, but they didn't like seem that weird, right? The first one was weird. The first one was like, how'd you guys not see this guy? But he's also like a 22-year-old kid, right?
Well,
Like if there's
yes.
anyone paying a 22-year-old kid off to assassinate someone, it's like, what what would you even do if you were 22? What could make you try to kill a presidential candidate? It's not a fat stack of money because I know I'm going to be dead and not able to spend it, right? Is
Well,
it
it's
the
just
credit?
to, yeah, it's just the credit. It's the whole reason.
Maybe
He
it's the
went from
credit.
a nobody to, at least a very notable person.
Yeah, until like a week later when Biden dropped out and then people forgot his name immediately.
It's, yeah, it's a sad reality that
Yeah.
I I don't know if, having an attempt on your life is very serious. I think it seemed to change him. He commented on it a lot after that, and
Hmm.
I think he was just upset with the way he was being demonized, and I'm kind of upset with it too now because you can see everyone shifting their positions against him, and he was heavily vilified, and he's the president of our United States, and it wasn't even that close of an election.
Yeah, and that's where it's kind of shifting back. Because I'm like, what if this all was some sort of what if everything they're saying about Trump being, terrible and awful is maybe he is trying to do the right thing this whole time and they don't want him to do that because that conflicts with their current interests, it conflicts with the politics they want implemented. I mean, both sides are going to slander each other regardless, but they're acting like he is, I mean, literally Hitler. That word is getting thrown around a lot nowadays.
And no, and it's very sad, because there's been, even something like January 6th. It's like was there bloodshed on January 6th? Did someone?
A couple people died, I think. I
I
think
don't think so.
I
Let me
think
hold
a
on.
police officer died, like someone who was supposed to be guarding that area. I forgot why though. I think it was like a medical condition.
6 people died. Three
Yeah, I
died
mean,
of natural Kansas. One died of natural causes a day after. One
Natural
shot by
Kansas.
police, and another of drug overdose.
Yeah,
So within
kind of a
36
bunch of randomness, but
no, let me read this and
okay,
this is what
okay,
Wikipedia says.
okay.
Within 36 hours, this is January 6th, United States Capitol.
Hmm.
Within 36 hours, 6 people died. One was shot by Capitol Police, another
Hmm.
died of drug overdose,
Okay.
3 died of natural causes, and a police officer died of natural causes a day after being allegedly assaulted by rioters.
How's that
Many
natural
people,
causes after assault?
I mean, he might have just there's I mean that there's nothing to say about that. One died of a drug overdose, 3 of natural causes. An officer died of natural causes the day after
Yeah,
possibly being
I mean
allegedly being beaten.
that's still a
I
lot though for how many
that was
people were there though?
five deaths 5 of the
How
6
many
deaths,
people?
only one was a shooting.
I know, and he was shot by Capitol Police, which is like, that's kind of a no-brainer. Yeah, but out of how many people that went to January 6th, like how many do you think there were? Like 2,000, maybe?
But I for me the power of the United States military
Mm-hmm.
and the power that they're able to deploy in a short amount of time
Mm-hmm.
is so dramatic. I mean, I understand that the attack on government officials is a terrible thing, and that is terrible. That is not
Yeah,
to be condoned at
no,
all. But
especially
it
like in a mob. If it's like
just
two people entering or whatever, and being like, "Hey, we raided the Capitol," not that they'd ever get in if it's two people, but when you got like an angry mob, it's like, yeah, 99% of those people are probably going to not step over some moral line that they know not to cross. But then
I
there's always that 1% that
I
wants
think
to give
people
something extra.
are speaking in a heated way, which is just we as Americans who've never seen war, have
Mm,
never been on a front line, have never felt what it's like to be refugees, are way never felt really what it's like to have death come at you every single and from every single way.
hmm.
We're bringing huge words to and huge sentiments that to each other in a political way, and it's dangerous. These words, you can say them all you want,
Hmm.
but vilifying the other side when it's not as extreme as you're making it out to be is
Hmm.
dangerous because it instigates, considerations of violence. Why
Well,
did these 2 people try to kill Trump? Well, definitely the second guy seemed to think he was justified by the way he, just his how he viewed Trump as a human being and as a threat to the world. He seemed
yeah,
to think that Trump was a threat to the world and he'd be doing good for the world by
everyone a service. Yeah.
yes. And you know, it's just there was really, really huge vilifying of him, and I think after these attempts, even the a lot of all of the other politicians were like, wait, what if someone comes after my life? Like, I mean, another very serious incident. Someone broke into the Pelosi's home and assaulted Nancy Pelosi's husband.
That's right. I forgot about that.
That's a very serious thing. And after that, I mean, that's not a lighthearted thing. That's a really serious thing. So, I think it's in the best interest of politicians and in the best interest of the American people to really tone down the level of demon. What do you think? You seem to not agree.
I don't think it's their fault at all. Actually, I think it's all can be pinned on the media because it's literally it's literally the same reason that Trump is such a character and Kamala seems so boring. It's because he seems kind of wild and out there. Like he's a spectacle. He knows how to play up an audience. He knows how to play up TV. I think the media likes it too. Like even if they're reporting all this stuff against them, I bet their viewership is up, right? Like I bet all that. But the whole thing is like the news is reporting, oh, your teenagers might be doing something that might kill them more at 11. You know what I mean? They're trying to grab your attention with these fear and these threats. And yet they're reporting on the other side and vilifying them in a way that is showing the worst 5%, 1% of the other side. Because that
That's
side's
very
extreme.
true.
That side is interesting to watch. That side is the people wearing KKK hoods or bringing tiki torches to a rally, you know. And then same on the right. The right is going to go after Antifa. The right is going to go after anyone who's like looks too woke, you know, blue hair, nose rings, things like that. They're going to try and pin the other side as unrelatable. And they're going to make both sides kind of go at each other and they're going to play it up like that. And so even after this Trump loss, I'm like on Reddit quite a bit because I like reading through things on Reddit. I haven't been paying that much attention to the news until after the election, and it's all entertaining. But I still see people vilifying the right as being, you know, intellectually inferior or Nazis. You know, literally everyone who voted right is a Nazi. You know, stuff like that. Those broad generalizations. Now, I'm not blaming them for being on the left and vilifying the right. I'm blaming them for being on the left and vilifying the right just because it's the only media I have been around since. I haven't seen what the conservatives have been saying about the left because I'm not really on a site that
I'm pretty sure
provides.
they vilify the left as well.
They have, but I don't know if they are now because I don't think there's any reason to, considering they just won. Or
Well,
they're saying things like, "Oh, liberal tears," yada yada yada, that sort of stuff.
as a Californian, I mean, you could see the voter, you know, the difference in votes
Mm-hmm.
from 2020 to 2024. There
In
was a
our counties,
huge in California as a whole. I think I don't know the
yeah,
amount of Republican voters increased
yeah,
pretty dramatically, and I mean there's been alienation on,
mm-hmm.
you know, you if you talk to someone who's really stark about their party and you have some disagreements with them and they become aggressive in tone, they start questioning your
Immediately,
morality, they start
immediately,
questioning how, you know, your intentions. It's like, okay, I'm sorry, just, you know, I if you're going to question my intentions because I don't believe in the same exact set of ideologies across the board as you,
mm-hmm.
and if this is too much for you to handle, that's not really a problem for me. That's more of a problem for you.
Yeah, and then it
And
almost pushes you away from their beliefs because you see that and you get scared and you're like, I don't want to become that. I don't want to ever be that invested or
it,
ever feel like I need to cry if the president I want to win is not winning or things like that. Is I think people haven't taken like a step back and realized like, hey, this is fine. You know, like things will work out. It
things
is
will work out.
going to change. You also live in California, which was still mostly blue for the most part. I mean, sure, in president elect, we had like 5 counties flip to Republican, but those are like swing counties. They don't count for much. They're not like LA. They're not like San Francisco, San Diego, anything like that. And yeah, we got some good ballot initiatives passed. According to my friend, I haven't read through any of them.
For California.
For California, yeah, we'd have to maybe look those up and talk about them some other time. But I mean, overall things are good. Um, the abortion thing, I think that's kind of the main issue Kamala was running on. And while I do believe it should be nationally legal, I've thought about it over the last few days. And if a lot of people are going to oppose it and it means a lot to them, then I think maybe it was the call to make it up to state rights. Because, I mean, Louis C.K. has a really good bit about this where he's like, people always clown on these anti-abortionists for being so angry all the time and waving their flag around, and it's because they think you're actually killing babies. They don't see it as a different way. They don't understand it as a different way. And so I think, if you do leave it up to the states, all the ones with the big cities are blue. I think most of the states passed it. There's a couple exceptions like Florida. A friend told me Florida had like a 58% vote to legalize abortion, but it didn't pass because they need 60% to pass measures, which seems
I don't
kind of
know.
dumb. But yeah, I mean, things on a state by state level, if things are like it in your state and you hate everything it stands for, then it sucks to say, but like if you want to take a stand, you gotta move. If
I
every
think so.
if every
And
woman in a state doesn't like the fact that their state didn't legalize abortion and they all move out, that state no longer has any men because the men will follow, and then that state doesn't have an economy, and then they're gonna have to change everything back. But like, I still would rather have a blanket legalized abortion and protection for women. But I also don't think it was the issue of this time. It made sense with a woman candidate running for president, especially like on the left. But this time it was economy, and that won out. I think in people's minds, shit's expensive now. People want it to end.
well, I mean, as a Californian who now we have legalized abortion at the state level, until this becomes federally illegal at the illegal at the federal level, it's
Mhm.
not my number one priority. I mean, we
It's never
have
going to be illegal at the federal level either. They can't blanket
no,
that.
they
It's
could
always
be.
going to get overridden by states.
I would never say never.
You
It's
don't think so?
I mean, I know I don't have any sort of inclination that I mean things change radically. Things do change radically. I
Hmm.
mean, I hope not. At the minimum, what I can say is there were a lot of things going on, and we as I think Americans should really be more conscientious of the state they live in. It matters a
Hmm.
lot. COVID proved that matters a lot. It's not
Oh
a
yeah,
small thing. Your income taxes should also prove that.
and more important than the president, your local and state elections have a much larger impact on your day to day life,
Yes.
and I think that's where some of the hype needs to die down. I would be much more stoked if I saw people insanely upset over who got elected to county supervisor or whatever. You know what I mean? That would make a lot
It's
more sense to me. But
it
uh, it's hard to stay informed on everything.
it's very hard. I
It's
mean,
hard to make an informed decision.
it's really important, especially if you don't move to be informed
Hmm.
on the local
Yeah.
stuff. Scott, I gotta bounce,
Oh,
actually.
well, that's good. We got about an hour in. Oh,
Yeah,
close to. Yeah.
but
I think it went
we'll
well. It was all
what?
politics based, so maybe we'll get to talk about something else if we do it again.
Yes, let's do it again soon. And I mean, we had to keep it on politics for the election week.
For
Still,
obvious reasons.
for obvious reasons, kind of ingesting it all and taking it somewhere.
Yeah.
Until next time, Scott.
Until next time.